Okay, good morning once again. And let's get started on this session, Demystifying AI in Finance. Someone said, people are like bank accounts. Without a lot of money, they do not generate a lot of interest. Well, I can't tell you if the panelists for this session have a lot of money or not, but I can certainly tell you that they're going to generate a lot of interest because they're going to be talking about the most exciting topic, which is AI in finance. And I think that's of interest to each one of you in this room. So please put your hands together to welcome our first speaker on stage, Prof. Chua Tat-Seng. Prof. Chua Tat-Seng is the KITHCT Chair Professor at the Department of Computer Science, School of Computing. His main research interests are in multimedia information retrieval and social media analytics. In particular, he focuses on the extraction, retrieval, and question answering of text, video, and live media arising from the web and social networks. He's also the director of the Next++ Research Center, a joint research center between NUS, Tsinghua University, and University of Southampton to research into big, unstructured, multi-source, multimodal data analytics. In the international community, Prof. Chua plays an active role in leading several initiatives and serves as a program committee member of numerous international conferences in the areas of computer graphics, multimedia, and text processing, and also in various editorial boards. At present, Prof. Chua is the chair of steering committee of ICMR, the International Conference of Multimedia Retrieval and Multimedia Modeling Conference Series. Apart from teaching and research, Prof. Chua has also co-founded 2 technology startups around technologies that originated from his research in Next Center. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Prof. Chua Tat-Seng on stage.
Okay, good morning. I need to wait for my slides to come on. I think I'm a professor, so I cannot speak without slides. Okay, so I thought I would just kind of lay the groundwork for this topic called Demystifying AI in Finance. So I guess I will kind of just roughly like to say what is the scope of this so-called in fintech. I think, as you know, the 4 main topics of fintech that everybody talks about are blockchain, payment, lending, and investment. And I just want to say that we are not going to talk about blockchain, we're not going to talk about payment, but probably we focus a little bit more on investment and lending and all the kind of AI technologies to assist the area of work. Secondly, of course, is what is AI. I think AI, by Wikipedia definition, is kind of machine intelligence, intelligence demonstrated by machines, and it involves machine learning, inferencing, understanding, and probably discovery as well. And the key technologies I think we're going to talk about, and in fact will be quite relevant to the topics we're talking about, will be machine learning, deep learning, unstructured data analytics, and knowledge graph. So I thought I'd just kind of give an outline of what is fintech. I think fintech actually started pre-2008 when we talk about digitization. I think anyway, without digitization, I guess computer cannot play much role. So savings, loans, remittance, all these things are digitized. And of course, the next phase from 2008 to 2016, we talk about automation and networking. We start mobile payment, peer-to-peer lending, online insurance, IoT, and all these things. From 2016, I think we talk about big data. I think it's the era of big data and so-called intelligence. Here we have financial clouds, emergence of financial big data, blockchain, and also the financial intelligence. I think the financial intelligence is probably the topic that we'd like to touch upon. And by the way, the slides is a courtesy of KITHCT company. So in terms of technology stacks, I think the 4 key elements are security, distributed tech, networking, and AI. And the corresponding fintech area that map to this are the blockchain, financial cloud, mobile finance or internet finance, and then the financial intelligence. I guess in terms of financial decision making, I guess decision here, it means it could be a price estimation, risk management, fraud detection, that kind of decisions. I guess currently, I think we mostly look at kind of internal structured data, of course with the expert knowledge. And in now or near future, I think what we talk about is, in addition to these two, we will need to look at external unstructured data. Unstructured data here will involve news, social media, forums, and all the other kind of sources. Knowledge graph, we need to kind of build knowledge graph. In particular, the networks between companies, between users, and things like that. These are very important for a range of applications. And then the AI platform will then be integrating all of this to make kind of a so-called AI decision. And of course, this whole process is always supported by expert knowledge to make the final decision. And of course, the question here is, can we make better augmented user decisions based on this one? By the way, I think all of this, I think there are lots of companies working to show that actually this one still cannot beat the best human experts. And of course, the human experts look at a lot of indicators and things like that, which we are still unable to codify in machine learning. So what I will be interested in will be so-called unstructured data analytics that involve gathering of data sources, analyzing the data sources, finding out what is important, figure out what's the alphas and things like that in finance, together with domain knowledge for so-called estimation, long-term assets, and so on. Here I just put down futures and commodities, but of course there are lots of other things. Profiling, given the user account, given the username, account name, phone number, the things like that, what can you profile about that? I think these are kind of, lots of companies are doing that now. Of course, question is how well they do it. Recommendation and advice. And another important thing will be explainability. Yeah. How can you explain your decision? And finally, I just want to emphasize that the AI is basically captured to perform continuous learning. I want to emphasize for specialized tasks, right? So AI systems are learned to capture data, add on data, and then learn about the mistakes and things like that, but only for very specific tasks. I think we are still far away from AI able to make decisions on anything that you kind of talk about. Okay, finally, I just want to end up this one just to emphasize the importance of AI augmenting human creative activities. This is the passage by Tim Berners-Lee, the founders of Web. I think he's kind of saying that we need to create social machines on the web, a process in which humans do the creative work and the machine does the administration. Right, so we need to create new forms of social processes that will give to the world at large. Okay, I think so that's my message, that we should be talking about AI augmenting human creativity. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Chua. I would now like to invite on stage our panelists and the moderator for the session. Our first panelist is Mr. Tat-Seng, CEO of Maybank Kim Eng Research Private Limited. Maybank Kim Eng Research Private Limited is the equities research arm of Maybank Kim Eng. Mr. Ong manages the equities research operations of 6 research teams in Asia and oversees fundamental research of listed companies and market strategy. He has over 15 years of research experience covering transport and logistics, auto, retail, small caps, and special situations in Singapore, Hong Kong, and Vietnam. More recently, Mr. Ong was responsible for setting up Maybank Kim Eng's Innovation Lab at Block 71. The Innovations Lab's mission is to identify leading technology leaders via Block 71 network to develop digital capabilities within the group. Please welcome Mr. Tat-Seng to stage. Our next panelist is Mr. Pan Wee Leong, co-founder of Shentillium Technologies. We co-founded Track Record Asia in 2016, a training academy for retail and professional traders founded by ex-traders from investment banks and hedge funds, Track Record aims to provide students with deeper insights into the science of trading through a meticulously designed investment framework. In 2017, we co-founded Shentilium Technologies, a deep learning as a service and machine learning solutions builder spun off from the NUS School of Computing. Specializing in artificial intelligence and data-driven analytics, Shentilium aims to combine human and machine intelligence to provide insights and solve commercial problems. Over the last 6 months, we have delved deep into cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. We both invest in and advise on blockchain projects. At present, he is an advisor to Medilot.com, a decentralized healthcare data platform which utilizes blockchain and AI technologies. Previously, we has been a partner of a $1.2 billion global macro hedge fund in the US and held positions in JP Morgan Chase with postings in London, Singapore, Seoul, and New York, and as head of trading at Morgan Stanley, Hong Kong, where he spent 2 years helping to build the Asian currency and interest rates franchise. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Wee. And the moderator for this session is Associate Professor Keith Carter. Keith Carter's mission is to help business succeed with actionable intelligence. Keith is an associate professor at the NUS School of Computing, preparing students and workforce with innovative thinking and get them ready to deliver business solutions integrating data visualization and machine learning. He is the Actionable Intelligence Senior Strategist at KBC Global Partners, helping senior leaders to develop data-driven business strategy, leveraging big data and developing capabilities to seize opportunities, leading digital transformation across finance, banking, fintech, and supply chain. He is also the co-founder and machine learning lead at Datarama, a fintech startup. Prof. Carter is also the author of Amazon bestseller Actionable Intelligence, a guide to delivering business results with big data fast. Keith's mission is to help others succeed through his work in lecturing, writing, mentoring, and consulting. He believes the current wave of valuing data as highly as gold will create more jobs than ever in human history. In his previous roles, he has worked with Accenture, KPMG, Goldman Sachs, and Estee Lauder. Keith received his MBA from Cornell University. Please welcome Associate Professor Keith Carter. And may we have Prof. Chua Tat-Seng on stage as well, please. Thank you. And without further ado, I now hand you over to Keith.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Keith Carter. Good morning. Wow, that was really quiet. Is there coffee outside? Can we get some coffee in? Good morning, everyone. All right, there we go. We're here to talk about AI and demystifying it. I talked to the panelists before we got into this session, and we said, what is AI? Is it real? Are we there? Isaac Asimov's dream, if you've watched Blade Runner or any of those TV movies where Joe, are we there now? So what is AI? And we're going to talk about that as Prof. Chua highlighted. In his slides, there is a particular sentence I want you to pay particular attention to, or a key point: continuous learning. We're talking about training machines, but what about training us? Where do we stand? Where are our jobs in the years to come? We're going to touch on that too. So if you don't come away with some questions around, hey, what is my job today and how is it going to be transformed and what ought I be doing? Should I invest in artificial intelligence, or is it really something else in 2018? What's my priority? If you don't come away with that, I hope you'll ask some questions. But I have to warn you, as a professor, I may also ask you some questions. So the door is still open if you want to go. If you're worried about me pointing, sir, with the shirt, please go ahead. But if you stay, please be part of our discussion, part of our dialogue, and join us in this, what I think we all are learning about today. I'm joined on stage by three gentlemen who are not only practicing this, but have put it into place, have worked on their version of AI. And we'll hear what that's about too. All right, so let me just start off. Sing-Yo, we got to hear a bit about from Prof. Chua as he presented his vision of what is happening in this space. Could you talk a little bit to us about Maybank and what you're doing there?
Sure. Thanks for the introduction, Keith. So recently, the organization that I represent, Maybank Kim Eng, we've had the privilege of basically working with MIT Media Labs and a particular associate professor by the name of Liet Rawan. Associate Professor Liet Rawan is basically, in his field, an expert on the social ethics of AI. And in particular, the area that we kind of did some work with him was in the area of driverless, basically the social dilemma pertaining to driverless automobiles. Okay? So to illustrate the point, what if driverless cars basically became so intelligent that it could decide whether in a particular scenario for the machine or for the car, in order for it to avoid an accident, that it would have to either make a decision whether to continue in its current course, but by so doing, it would kill the obstacle in front of him, or it would make a conscious decision whereby it would veer in another direction, but in that move, it would then kill the passenger inside the car. Naturally, no one would basically buy a driverless car if the conscience existed within the machine to actually protect only the driver, right? So that same context is also very relevant for us in the work that we do at Block 71. The innovations desk was just recently opened, not too long ago, and our whole motive is really to get up close and personal with technology leaders to feed and to co-develop solutions for our fintech platforms. As you can imagine, one of the issues that we would have to face, because of the fact that we're in the market for selling securities, we are also, as you would imagine, market makers for a lot of the products that we recommend to our clients as well. What if basically the AI that we put into our solutions actually had the conscience to actually benefit us only and not the client, right? This is something that you've probably read in newspapers, heard about it in terms of interviews with some of my competitors in the market. But generally, this is something that is very important to us, and we think that if we understand this a bit better, it would be a key determinant of our strategy insofar as AI is concerned. Keith, thanks.
Sing-Yo, that's a great point. How do you decide whether you use these weapons, if you would, for trading for yourself or for your clients? And that can be a key issue for banks to decide on. V, I'm going to turn over to you, and perhaps you could share a little bit about what is key for you in terms of artificial intelligence, or what other could AI mean?
Okay. Morning, everyone. It's quite clear, seeing my struggles with the mic, that to be in finance, there's really no correlation with intelligence. I come from the background of finance, so I would like to speak more about the usage of AI and data in finance during this panel discussion. Thanks for having me. But as I said, finance is a world where we like to cloud things in with a lot of technical jargon and make everybody think we are smarter than everybody else. But in fact, it's far from the truth. In fact, I would say AI is not a new thing in finance. I have met artificial intelligence, as we define it, is not new in finance. I've met many people in my career in finance who are truly artificially intelligent. But today, we are here to talk about not human artificial intelligence, but machine based artificial intelligence, and I think it has huge prospects, and the promise of artificial intelligence is revolutionary and is a huge paradigm shift for the world at large. And together in the course of history, and whenever we come to a time where there is a paradigm shift, there will also be bubbles and hypes, right? And this will not be different from what has happened throughout the course of history. Many artificial AI firms and promise of AI will fail to deliver, right? They will disappoint us. But at the end of it, there will be improvements in human living standards. And of course, there's always social dilemmas, moral decisions to be made when we are faced with decisions as to do we embrace AI? Do we embrace biotechnology? Do we create that nuclear bomb, right? Of course, some decisions should not have been made, but as history has shown us, we cannot contain science. We have to embrace it, we have to use it, we have to make it an efficient tool to improve the living standards of the human race. And of course, in the process of doing so, we will be faced with decisions that are very hard to find the answer to. But I have faith in the course of history has shown us that with every improvement in efficiency, improvement in human productivity, there is an increase in living standards, and that is always a good thing, right? So I'm here to talk about that. Yeah.
All right. So we've gone from talking about the ethics of AI and whether the bank should use it fully for itself, take positions, and perhaps not necessarily provide the smartest AI for its clients or even smarter AIs for its clients. We've gone over to perhaps you mentioned wow, maybe there's a way to efficiently allocate resources in a city using an AI-run government. Maybe the 8G government is AI as well. And then when we go over here to Prof. Chua, he talked about several areas. Is it lending? What can we do with fair lending or finance as well and make better suggestions? That's a lot of commitment for a machine to be able to deliver. So what is AI? And I'd like for us in the audience, I want you to also participate in this, because I'm going to come out to you on this as well. What is AI? Is it the Isaac Asimov system that's able to predict kind of the future and take advantage of opportunities that it's never seen before? Are we there? Or today in 2018, are we at a different type of AI? Who would like to take that? There we go. Great.
So I guess I give it a quick chat. I think Keith just talked about is the AI that we talk about is a kind of general AI that kind of can answer any questions, solve any problems. So I think the answer, of course, is not. I think right now we are looking at is basically a kind of an AI for a specialized task. And then the reason that AI is so hot now is because of the availability of data and also the high-speed computation and so on, so that we're able to chunk out lots of data. And so there are lots of kind of so-called deep learning and other algorithms that are able to basically decipher, basically extract or discover patterns from those data so that we are able to kind of answer a lot of questions. So actually, one thing is about those so-called data-driven deep learning type of algorithm. Basically, the AI is basically as good as the data it provides. And of course, the continuous process of refining, or I call it continuous learning about AI, is actually you can think of it as a simple process of keep feeding in new data so that the system can do better and better. But of course, there's another traditional angle of AI, which is symbolic AI, which is represented by so-called knowledge structure, knowledge graph, right? And of course, right now is given the limitation of data-driven type of AI, which is basically data-driven and also non-explainable. I think people are also going back to look for help from the traditional so-called knowledge structure type of AI, the so-called knowledge graph of Google. I'm sure everybody hears about that, right? So I think the big thing now is that given a specialized task, can we come up with a good knowledge structures that explains the relationship between all the entities involved, as well as the data, and then combined together, can we do a better learning? I think that's the state that we're in. And I would say we are going to be very good at specialized tasks. The next test will be, can the AI system explain to the user how they come up with the decision? And for a lot of tasks, AI system already do better than the human. But of course, humans still don't trust the AI because the AI is not able to give a good, reasonable explanation. So that's the state I think we're in on AI.
Thanks, Prof. Chua. V? Or
I fully agree with Prof. Chua on this, that if you look at AI and its history, you know, this could go all the way back 50 or 60 years when kind of the first experts started talking about the idea that machines could one day be as intelligent as human beings. But it's only basically in the last few years whereby, in my opinion, AI has really taken off, especially within the field of finance, because of the existence of data sets, right? So if I can give you a simple analogy, when you look at AI in terms of what it could do in the area of playing chess games, right? You know that IBM Watson has beaten world chess players like Kasparov just by basically combing through millions of sets of scenarios on chess and then basically inferencing on that data and becoming a better player at the end of the day, right? We see that in chess, we see that in AlphaGo, and to some extent also, there are many other applications that we see in other fields as well. But if you take this on the other extreme, for example, in the field of medicine, right? For example, you know, there are apps available out in the market which can detect, okay, take pictures and scan through millions of pictures in terms of mammograms, skin deformities, and basically be able to tell whether that is melanoma or carcinoma just based on the size and shape of those images. But when the results come out, especially within the field of medicine, and assuming that it's a malignant tumor, would the patient using the app base his entire judgment on the result of that app? He would basically, you know, sing Kumbaya with his very close friends and make, you know, last arrangements on funeral rites and all that. The answer is likely no, because the patient will likely go to a doctor, right? Maybe two, to get a different opinion whether or not the images on that scan is what it says it to be. So similarly in finance, I believe that AI at this stage has only come to a state where it's just augmenting human intelligence, right? The software could certainly scan through in terms of historical performances of a particular asset class. And in some cases like ETFs where it's really diversified, you know, it makes it a lot easier for the robot or the machine to allocate, okay, maybe you buy X% in terms of more defensive type ETFs and X% more aggressive based on your risk profile. But when it comes to basically telling you whether or not your portfolio is optimal and suggesting whether or not it's, you know, the alpha potential particular security holding is high or low, you would still need an expert to come in and basically augment that set of results. Because only the human analyst has corporate access, has first-hand information when they go and see a company, whether the corporate strategy is right, whether the company is doing right by taking a decision left or right. Only the human analyst can basically make the conclusion, you know, in that sense. So I believe that at this stage, while machines are getting more intelligent, it's really just augmenting certain competencies, especially in the field of finance.
Sung Yao, you've literally said a mouthful on this in terms of AI and data. Let me just check. How many of you have received an email or a WhatsApp chat from someone, one of your friends, and been like, was he happy or sad? You didn't understand. am I the only person here who's gotten something like that and had to pick up the phone and call them to find out what they meant? What did you mean by this chat, right? This text. We miss data, as Sung Yao was talking about. If someone goes through and checks all my WhatsApp chats and analyzes it, what's missing? The emotion, the connection I have with the person, the context. If my grandmother sends me a note and says, these are really great apples, we kind of know, well, grandma, she's probably talking about apples. But if, as a geek myself and one of my friends sends me, who just went to the Apple store, these are really great apples, we know, okay, he's talking about computers. That information, though, we don't feed in to our systems. We don't necessarily have the full context of the corporate earnings report. Was the CEO nervous when he was announcing Asia's results? Or was he excited and genuine? That data isn't in our data set. So one of our greatest challenges today for delivering AI is, and as Prof. Chua talked about, we end up collecting more data today than sometimes the systems that we're trying to depend on to do automatic decision making. That's where the humans we can't get rid of yet, because we're not capturing the level of data we need for AI to be a complete reality to replace a person. So I saw a question here, will AI replace finance jobs? Here's the great part about this that we've heard so far on the stage. No, but the jobs will be different. Looking back, before we had spreadsheets, could banks expand and grow and have as many clients as they can today? No. Everyone had to write things down. We have more jobs in banking, but the jobs are completely different. So let me come over here to us in terms of the importance of this on our agenda. This is the essence of this question. Where should this be? Artificial intelligence, V, you set us on the right path, and Prof. Chua, you set us on the right path saying, artificial intelligence isn't yet that it can answer all questions, but yet we can answer some. Is it important on the senior level agenda? And where does it start? Do we start by collecting better data? Do we start by teaching our people what this is so they can answer it? Do we start by asking the right questions like Sung Yao talks about? Where do we start with this?
I think there's several good points we made, right? I think we live in an age where data is now freely, readily available at very cheap price. But yet, I think this is the time where we store more data than we can make sense of. And that's where AI comes in. AI can crunch lots of data and find trends within it, patterns within it, correlations within it, causality within it, and at some point you can extract the value out of data. And I think it is you cannot walk into any global bank or in fact regional bank and talk to the CEO and talk about the AI and he has no clue. Of course they know it's important, but the resistance within finance is that there are many legacy systems in banks, and they have stored data in various forms and formats. Of course, they have moved far away from paper storage, but within the bank itself, they have different sets of data for different things. And to overcome the hurdle of integrating a system, multiple systems within even a bank, it takes many years. Right? And it's important to get the data into a format where it's clean and can be analyzed. And to allow that to happen, there has to be the commitment to break down silos within banks where they have their own data storage. And how do you come to an arrangement of sharing? In fact, I had a conversation with a large bank, a prominent bank recently about the difficulty in initiating AI projects. It's because one department has this part of the data, the other department has the other part of the data, and the person who wants to analyze it belongs to another department. So if they bring all this data together and the guy who analyzes it extracts value from it, he's the guy who's going to get a promotion. All these guys are not going to be happy, right? And as we know, in finance, it's always about alpha, right? About what's in it for me. So that is a very high hurdle to overcome, right? And of course, there are always questions about when people talk about AI, they talk about, can this machine replace a human being? Of course, if you expect the machine to replace a human being in doing almost everything that a human being does, it's going to take some time. It's going to be a long way away, right? And have we met a human being who does not make errors? I have yet to meet one, right? How could we expect that of a machine, right? Of course, the machine will be able to do specialized tasks much better than human beings. And that is the state we are in right now, right? The question about, is AI going to eat our lunch? Of course, some of us will lose the edge that we have, right? But that is not something to be afraid of. When I was growing up, I may look quite young, but I'm quite old actually. And when I was growing up, there was no Google. And I read a lot. I have a huge edge over my peers because they didn't read, they watched TV, right? They play games. But I was a nerd, I was just at home reading books all the time. And I'll go to every conversation and I will appear intelligent just because I could recite some passages from some newspapers or some books. That is AI to me. I was really not that intelligent, but I read it somewhere, right? And in this day and age, that edge has completely eroded. I'll go to a discussion with my friends, and then I'll say some random fact that I thought I knew correctly. Then the guy will say, "Are you sure?" And he pulls out Google, and he says, "No, it's not this." Then I'm like, "Oh, okay." So the world will change, and the world is changing, right? AI is more suited to specialized tasks. And right now, we are at a stage where I think Seng Yao mentioned correctly. He brought up AlphaGo being able to beat human players, world-ranked human players. And one of the ways that the machine won was it played a move that was never played before in the history of human players, right? And that will happen when you train an AI enough, right? Because for closed loops, I think AlphaGo, Go is a very different thing. There's optimal solution playing, right? Of course, in life, there isn't really an optimal solution. But let's just say you put it to a task, it will come up with solutions that you can never foresee or have never foreseen or will doubt, right? But of course, after the fact, if you start to look at it more, after the result has come, you'll find that, it's a brilliant move. I have just never seen this before. No one alive has seen it before. No one in the past has seen it before, right? But in finance, if the AI starts to implement decisions that you, human analysts, have never predicted before, have never done before, do you start to say, yes, let's go with it, right? Of course, AlphaGo, it's okay to go with it. At most, you lose a game. But in finance, you could lose the whole company, right? You could lose $1 billion because it implements a decision that no one has ever done, no one has ever predicted, and no one can ever foresee, right? So that is the difficulty of AI in finance, I think. So you can set it to very simple tasks, not simple, but complex tasks where, as Seng Yao said, the human analyst is comfortable with the decisions. But it's very difficult when it comes to portfolio management. What if it says we are going to buy only one product for only one instrument, one financial instrument for the next 5 days? It could be the right thing to do, right? But do you really want to do it, right?
Exactly. Let me go out to the audience here. What questions do you guys have in regards to AI? What did you want to hear about in terms of where should this sit on your agenda and business? V has made a very good point. Yes, sir. We have a microphone. Okay. We'll go there and then come over to you, sir. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. AI is a double-edged sword. You know that. AI is not new.
No.
It was introduced maybe 60 years ago. It couldn't be implemented at that time because of hardware limitation. Today, the hardware is fast enough for us to realize some AI.
Yeah.
Is that enough? No. AI is moving. It's a moving technology. Today, we might think that the computing ability is very good. No. 30 years from now, when we look back, Today's technology is just like, right, the horse cart. What is important to understand? As I said, AI is a double-edged sword. I disagree with one of the speakers saying that AI would improve standard of living. I say quality of life. Quality of life is important as standard of living. Now, AI, as what he has said, could bring down a company. AI could bring down the whole world economy if we are not careful. Steve Hawking, the famous physicist, said, AI is one of the most dangerous human inventions if we are not careful. The question is, who will control AI? Thank you.
Who will control AI, and it could bring down the economy? In fact, as the questioner asked, the world economy. Who would like to talk to that? Prof. Chua?
I guess maybe you kind of saying the right that AI is not as powerful as we think, because I think basically AI is basically, right now a lot of AI are basically based on data. So to the extent of what data can you collect and things like that. So I think, just as we talk about it, I think one key part of our companies to embrace AI is to actually make sure your data is open, at least internally, so that you can have a cohesive set of data to do all the analysis. Secondly, of course, is collect external data. Okay, and secondly is on how to control AI. I think the key part is, it's like the GDPR. I like to bring that up because some people will say that there's a European way of protectionism. But I guess if you look at it, it's a way to basically control those companies on what they can collect. Otherwise, if it's a little touch program on your notebook, they start collect your contacts and everything. Why would they want to collect your contacts information, right? So I think we need some legislation to say what can you collect and what can you use your data for. If you have a legitimate reason to collect this, to use that data for certain purposes, then it's okay. And then secondly, of course, we need also legislation on how we can share data. Who can share data with what? I think once this legislation is clear, I think the way will be opened up for people to share data. Because I think right now we share a lot of data, but actually we share it probably semi-legally. And without the guidelines, I think some people got away with it, some people don't do it, and things like that. So there's a very kind of degrees on how this can be implemented. I think for the long run, I think we need some way to say how can people control data, what analytics people can analyze, what analytics can share, and things like that. I think with these clear guidelines, people know exactly what to do. And that will be a good way to actually push the whole field onwards, rather than the kind of wild, wild west at the moment.
Maybe to add on to that question from you, sir. In my opinion, I think nobody owns AI. It's really a question or a game of speed. Whoever comes first would probably have some advantage, and which is why if you look at some of the geopolitical plays in the world right now, why the Chinese is so keen on developing their AI space is that every month that they're ahead investing in the AI space, it means years in terms of computing power and a lead in terms of that technology. And I can give you another example is that we know of firms that basically can, let's say if you wanted to analyze Tesla as a company and see how many cars it produces out of its factory in one specific location, the AI vendor or the data set or the alternative data set vendor could actually tap into the power grid, see how much electricity goes in, and make a rough estimation in terms of how many battery packs or cars that it ultimately produces out of that plant. Now tell me, because that is the public information, how long would it take before another competitor B, C, or D comes and tap on the same power source and figure out what is the total car battery output of that particular plant? Not very long, right? So as I said again, in my opinion, I think it's really a matter of speed. It's a game of speed at the end of the day.
Let me just ask a quick question here, and I liked how you've talked about speed and capability. GDPR is key. How many of you find it are working on AI projects now? 1, 2, 3, okay. Wait. This can't be true. Other people are shy. Okay, let me ask a different question. How many are planning to work on an AI project and working on, or working on a project? Okay, a bit more. Which is easier? Is it the software and hardware? Is it easy to get that, or is it easy to get the data for your project? So let me just see. Those of you who say it's really easy to get data for your AI project, let me see a show of hands here. Really easy to get. One person, couple of, okay. Easier to get the software and hardware. Okay, wait a second. So those of you who are getting data easily, you have to share your secret as well. Let me just go through one piece here, GDPR. Is GDPR helpful to this AI project, to our work, or is it something that will bring us back? So again, a question for you all. GDPR, helpful to AI, helpful for us getting more sense of what's going on in the world, to satisfy our customer, delight our customer? Or is it detrimental to us using it? I see one person in the back, like put his hands up right. Detrimental, right? Detrimental. Because it's putting up silos. So there's a question here about, I like this question, how do we prevent AI from exchanging confidential information? This comes to an essential issue for us. What's confidential? What's confidential? When I'm playing AlphaGo, do I see just my half of the board and I can't see the opponent's side, or the opponent's pieces? Can you imagine playing Go or chess and you can't see your opponent's pieces? Would that be fair? No, right? And you wouldn't be able to optimize the game. So as we come into this, both have talked about where's the importance of this. And I want to submit to you all that one of the important factors is our culture change first. Culture change, not the technology, maybe not even the data, but the ability to get to that. So I had a question over here. Sir, you had a next question. Yep. Go ahead.
Morning, my name is Dwayne. I had a question about finance. You've talked about the speed, the competitive advantage, the nature of finance to be very competitive amongst ourselves. Where do you see that we have opportunities to actually collaborate across AI so we're not all solving the same problem in slightly different ways? And where do you see then that the AI as your competitive advantage within the firm?
If I understand your question correctly, I think the potential for collaboration on AI is fairly limited at this moment. Because if I look at the two spectrums of my client base, my organization's client base, one being sophisticated clients, institutional type clients, and one being your high net worth or mass market type of clients, they have very different needs and wants. So for instance, in the institutional client base, they would basically come to us and say that, okay, we know that you as a firm, Maybank Kim Eng, you're good in certain areas, certain geographies, right? Malaysia, etc. And we want you to basically use AI and tell us, because of your corporate access, use AI to augment it and sell us that information. Now, if I basically invest funds to develop up the data set for that particular industry or sector, it's very unlikely for me to kind of like, I want to make this open to my competitors at this moment. But I would say that, you know, if it were a different ask from a different set of clientele, if it helps me potentially to sell more of my products in an ethical sense, I would, you know, there's a higher likelihood that I might be able to release that data, sell it, and share that with the market.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay, okay. Over here.
Yeah, hi. Just now a speaker mentioned that in the banks there's a lot of legacy system, and you know that makes it difficult for them to change to the new technology or picking up new technology. And I keep hearing that about the banks right now facing the fintech that's coming in and AI that's coming in. I'm just curious why there isn't some sort of API technology that we could plug into the bank and they could go and search all the information that they need within the bank independence of the legacy system and be able to move forward with the new technology. I'm just curious, why isn't that kind of thing being mentioned? But I keep hearing that, hey, the banks have so much legacy system and they could not move as fast as a fintech company.
So banks being held back by their legacy systems and many systems, right? Go ahead.
Well, that's a very good question, right? I think outside of finance, people think finance is a very efficient place, but it's as I said, you know, there's a lot of human interest involved, right? It's very difficult to ask a person to make himself obsolete, right? So if there's a better system to use, but I don't know how to use it, but I'm the head of a team that has 20 people who are doing this specialized, we've been doing it for 20 years, and I'm paid a bunch of money to just keep doing the same thing, whereas a young guy comes in, he's like, oh, you can, you know, upgrade to this system and we'll improve our efficiency. It takes a lot of guts to say, okay, I'm going to be the one who's going to put 20 of my people out of a job, right? It doesn't really happen that often, right? I think very simple, Keith brought up, you know, spreadsheets and all. When I was, I started my career in London at the end of 1997. And in London, we were using spreadsheets. And that was when I learned how to write pricing spreadsheets, Excel. It's now everywhere, right? But when I came back to Asia, it's also Chase Manhattan Bank, but it's Singapore. They were on Lotus 123, right? I look like a rock star because I have a better looking spreadsheet. But it just does the same thing, but much more efficiently. And it took many months before Excel spreadsheets became more prevalent in Singapore and the rest of Asia. And to you, that sounds weird, right? It's very obvious when if you look. Some of you don't even know what is Lotus 123, and you don't really need to know. It's a very, very basic version of Excel. And you wonder, why does it take a few months for people to change from a very basic spreadsheet to an Excel which can do, like, crunch everything that you can ever imagine, right? And there were still people using calculators when I moved back to Asia, right? They'll be pricing the emerging markets with just simple math. And that is a real life case, right? And I think with more complex systems, it becomes more entrenched interest. And yes, of course, it will be great. You know, for Prof. Chua, it will be brilliant if the world has an API where he can aggregate data in a form that he can analyze. He will be raking it in, right? But the world is not like this. The world is full of people with personal interest, vested interest, and just resistance to change. Lots of resistance to change. And the gentleman over there, he paints quite a stark view of the world with AI, a double-edged sword. Of course, I think many, as I said before, paradigm shifts always has these moral dilemmas. But let's just say he brought up the case where the horse carts. I think when Henry Ford introduced Model T, there were people, I'm sure there were people, and in fact there were documented cases of people who says, I'm going to refuse to take this iron carriage because my horse has eyes. It's never going to run itself into a tree, right? It's never going to run itself into the drain, into the wall, right? But the guy with the horse now, he's gone, right? And the person who continues to sell horse whips, now he's been put out by all these car manufacturers. Of course, you can be that person. You will be that person that to hold out at last, and you'll be selling antique clocks, right? You'll be selling horsewhips for recreational use. Of course, there will be fringe users like this, but and on the question of why isn't it that easy? Well, that's why there's money to be made in AI, because right now it isn't that easy, right? As Keith pointed out correctly, the difficulty is not computing power, it's not data storage, but it is the availability of data, right? In fact, our phones are now more powerful than many of the systems that were used in banks ages ago. The banks have stored reams and reams of data that could fill storehouses if it was on paper form. But it is just not readily available to be analyzed, right? Yeah.
Let me ask you all a question. As V talked about, the data might not be there, but how many of you are doing algorithmic trading with machine learning right now? Algorithmic trading you can do with just the older versions, right? Your regular ARIMA and other algorithms. But who's doing machine learning and algorithmic trading together in the room? I just want to see. Wait. No one raised their hand. Anyone doing, just to make sure you heard me in the back, anyone doing algorithmic trading with machine learning right now? No one at all. Anyone do trading in banking? Yes, okay. How many are in finance here? I should have asked it. Okay, good. Some more people are here in finance. All right. So we're talking about demystifying AI in finance. And in the last few minutes that we have, I want to touch on the dessert part of the discussion. How do we make money with this? Is this interesting? Is this part something you're interested in? Would you like to hear? Would you like them to tell you about how to make money with machine learning and finance? Yes? Okay, good. I also want to hear. So let's talk about this. Now, I'll kick off this side a little bit. I use machine learning, and I use it on a model for following the sun. Because we're here in Asia, but the US market opens at a certain time, and I like to see, are there any correlations between various instruments when they're able to be traded and the news, and then what happens over here in Asia, and vice versa. And there's some interesting correlations that come up. But what I like to joke about is that anyone who does machine learning can get to 75% accuracy. That's the easy target. It's when you get to 85, 90, and you're not overfit that you can actually say, hey, I've achieved something. So I want to turn over to us. We've talked about the challenge of data availability. We've talked about the ethics of having more intelligence than our customers and who should the algorithms be used for. We've talked about maybe the job space. Guys, let's bring it into algorithms. What can we use this for to make money? And let me just see if I can put this into a particular way. How can we use machine learning and maybe AI in order to generate alpha?
This is $1 million question, Chief. But the reason why I'm still here is because I'm still working. But jokes aside, as I alluded to earlier, AI, in our experience, in our limited experience, I have to say, is something that possibly works best as an augment to a human specialist basically looking at a certain set of scenarios, whether a stock price is going up or stock price is going down. Yes, you're right that even to the extent of basically estimating greed and fear, you could technically use futures and options to and overlay AI on top to figure out whether or not the market is kind of too hot for now or it's a great time to buy, right? But in our experience, we think that the best way to kind of make use of AI is really to kind of like to have access to corporate access. So basically the analyst goes out to meet companies and then they produce research. But the research could be only a snapshot of that particular situation of the company or an update of the company at a particular point in time. There are many things that basically happen between two different periods, right? Before the next research report is produced or the next set of results are released, etc., etc. And it's really that important, that ability of AI to kind of like scour the social media landscape to kind of get a true pulse in terms of what's really happening on the ground and basically be able to kind of like commingle this with the periodic snapshots of the company and produce some kind of a signals whether or not it's a great time to buy or it's a great time to sell. That, in my 2 cents worth, is how I think AI could really be used in practical life.
Oh, I actually have a simple answer to this, right? How do you make money from AI? First, you sign up for this NUS AI course, right? And then learn more about AI. And then you surround yourself with people from NUS, right? And I say this in jest, but also in truth. I was in finance for a long time. And part of the reasons why I left finance was because I truly think that there is more to this tech boom that I left finance like in 2012, 2013, and I really wanted to learn more about the science that's changing the world, right? Like data, tech, and I've collaborated with NUS professors, and you may find that, okay, you don't understand this because, in truth, you can ask Prof. Chua, you can ask Keith, very few laymen understand the true meaning of AI and the true potential of AI. And even regulators, they discuss about things that are way beyond the capabilities of present AI, right? But you're worrying about what will happen in 30 years when you really do need to concentrate right now. And the best way to do it is just learn more about it, surround yourself with people who know more about it, and then you can start to monetize it. But I think the average person, when they come to think about finance, AI in finance, they will think of a few things. They will think, okay, how am I going to get my machine to predict markets? That is one of the hardest questions to, have we ever found anybody whom we believe can consistently predict markets, right? Maybe only a handful of people in this world has proven the track record where they can consistently predict markets. And in fact, Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors of our time, he tells you exactly how he does it. But nobody wants to follow his way because it takes 20 years before he starts to show the results, right? And we dismiss it as, it's because he has access to capital, large amounts of capital. But he started at somewhere. So I think just start somewhere, right? And concentrate on AI beyond trying to reach Alpha Centauri, right? How about maybe we try to get to the moon, try to get to Mars, right? But the projects of saying, okay, I'm going to predict markets is, and I'm going to do it at home with my computer. It seems foolhardy to me, right? We have hedge funds with billions of dollars of capitals allocated to this, trying to do this all the time. And maybe they have figured it out. In fact, right, Keith, if I figured it out, I'm not going to tell you about it. And that's the reason why you say, are there any machine learning using algorithms that's profitable? I think maybe there's 5 of them and they're worth $2 billion each, but they're not going to tell you, right? that is the key. But for us, we are starting from a much lower base. You don't have massive amounts of capital, don't have expertise. Start by learning more about it, right? And we have to address, again, the question of, are we prepared to accept the decisions of this AI, right? When I think the gentleman said, I say, there's possibility it brings down companies, bring down economies. I don't mean that. I mean that the decisions that they make may be counterintuitive to us, but do we want to follow it, right? Or even it could be the most profitable decision ever, right? Say, for example, I think Seng brought up the car, the analogy where it makes a decision of who to kill in the process, right? But even in banks, of course, not many people will die in finance, but let's just say you do an analysis of your product, your credit card charges, your spending habits of all your clients, and all the earning power. And then statistically, you use a lot of different types of social data, structured data. And there's many studies who show that statistically, I will earn less money than these guys because I'm a shorter guy, right? Taller men statistically get better pay, higher pay. And women statistically, in many countries, get paid less than their male counterparts. Then the AI discovers this. Of course, it's not difficult to discover. Then does it mean that premium banking services should be geared towards taller men and discriminate against shorter men like me or women? That could be the best marketing decision ever, because over the lifetime of the lifetime value of the client would be how much the person can make and what are the products that the person will be using, right? But are we prepared to make that decision? But and again, we didn't touch on this. AI reinforces itself, right? The decision that it implements will influence the data that it continues to get from the world at large, right? So any decision that it makes will reinforce itself, and if that happens, right, statistically, people who fail to get credit will fail to get credit. Is that the world we want to have, right? Maybe that's a wrong decision to be had. But of course, this is at CEO level. they have moral dilemmas like this. For me, I just decide which professor I should meet today, which one I should invest in.
V, thanks for your kind words. Go ahead, Prof. Chua. Go ahead.
I just have a quick
Thanks for
one.
your kind words.
Anyway, so I guess in terms of making money, I guess I'm probably not the best person. But I guess we talk about maybe in terms of using to help the traders make money. I believe that a lot of hedge fund, all these things are already using AI to do a lot of tradings to assist them in doing the trading. As far as I know, on futures, commodities, and things like that, at least a few parties that I talk to that we try to initiate projects, they try to look at all kind of signals coming out from social media, forums, specialized forums, news, and all these things, together with financial data and things like that. So I believe that it's already used quite routinely, but maybe not in the sense of AI. I think when we think of AI, we always think of some machine doing something automatically, but that's not true, because AI's role at the moment actually is assisting someone who make better decisions. Yeah. And secondly, in terms of making money from our point of view, of course, we basically producing technologies. Of course, there are lots of technologies you can think of. Profiling, for example. I mean, simple profiling technology with the right data, actually you can come up with very good profiling work. For example, Taobao, right? I mean, Alibaba. It's just a simple profiling, and it's used as a kind of standard credit rating for personal loan, right? So something like that can be done quite easily. And of course, you go higher level, you try to see how I can integrate multiple sources of data for a very specific investment or type of risk estimation type of decisions. I think we can actually focus on that. And there will be demands. I think there are lots of those people with hedge fund, lots of long-term investment guys, they will need actually decisions like this. But I don't believe that AI can help in basically very short-term stock type of trading, because those are basically high-speed financing and things like that. Actually, a lot of decisions are not really based on historical and any patterns that you can draw on, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So my only point to this topic is that perhaps this might help the audience here. 3 letters, KYC. Know your client at the end of the day, because whatever AI solutions that are out there, the solutions are easily available, because many of these solutions are even published by Prof. Chua's, by the next plus team. They are available and they can actually be obtained quite fairly easily. But the question is whether or not this set of AI solution befits your client at the end of the day. Only you will be able to know whether or not that is appropriate.
That's so true. And Seng-Yo, just to wrap up with this, thank you all for listening to us today and participating a bit with my questions patiently as well. I wanted to bring up this chart that Prof. Chua had shared with us first. And remember I said at the beginning, what I want you to take away from this is, where are you? Aren't we supposed to not just be training machines, but shouldn't we also be continuously training too? So where are you on this? Are you at the point where you're beginning to do mobile payments and such? Is that where you are? I was just in China last week and all my payments were via Weixin, which is WeChat over there here, and just also easy to use as well. Or are we into using, getting alternative sources of data, like we talked about up here as well, getting IoT, Internet of Things? Are we connecting businesses? Because as was said, hey, it's not just about the data that we have in the stock market. That's not what necessarily drives the price. There's other sources of data we need to bring in. So where's our knowledge around the financial big data? Do we have information? Do we know how to leverage the data that's within our 4 walls, but also outside? How many of us have actually gone and purchased data from other industries that maybe we rely on or that our customers rely on? Those are opportunities. And building financial intelligence, V, thank you so much for setting me up for this. V said one of the important things to do is to surround yourself in discussions like this with people, I hope from National University of Singapore,
People like Prof. Chua are there to talk with you as well, to be able to bring you through, well, how could you use this? How could you do algorithmic trading? I taught my students algorithmic trading, so they're competing with you for the price right now, and in your portfolio. They're trying to generate alpha as well. So I hope either they hire them or they'll have their own startups. And I hope you too will come away from this saying this: it's possible. I can do this. I see some guys up here. We're not different from you. You guys can go out and deliver AI projects, but be realistic about it. Make sure the culture change is there to get access to the data you need to answer the most important questions and deliver the results that your bosses and most importantly, your customers expect. Thanks for listening to us today.